Andrew Williamson here. Welcome back to Williamson Education. Today's lesson is about my favorite part of speech, the conjunction. And I'm going to use this lecture to teach you some key ideas in conjunction usage. But before I get there, I want to begin with a bit of an anecdote about my time in the English department at Yale, where I went for college. Many years ago now, there was a professor in the Yale English department who taught 19th century literature. I did not take any classes with him, nor did I know him, nor have I even met him, and I'm sure he's a perfectly lovely man. But he became somewhat infamous in 2008 when he published an article called "The Disadvantages of an Elite Education." The article touched on the professor's own elite education and complained about the failings of the institutions he had attended. In particular, the professor told an anecdote about a time he called a plumber over to his home to fix a broken toilet. Much to the professor's surprise, he found that he had no topics to discuss with the plumber, whom the professor suggests was of a somewhat lower class. The professor wrote, "It didn't dawn on me that there might be a few holes in my education until I was about 35. I just bought a house, the pipes needed fixing, and the plumber was standing in my kitchen. There he was, a short, beefy guy with a goatee and a Red Sox cap and a thick Boston accent, and I suddenly learned that I didn't have the slightest idea what to say to someone like him. So alien was his experience to me, so unguessable his values, so mysterious his very language, that I couldn't succeed in engaging him in a few minutes of small talk before he got down to work. 14 years of higher education and a handful of Ivy League degrees, and there I was, stiff and stupid, struck dumb by my own dumbness." Now that's an interesting anecdote, and I'm sure it reflects the professor's unique life experience. But I would like to suggest in today's lesson on conjunctions that the failure was not on the part of the professor's education. It was rather a failure of the professor to understand his education. More specifically, it was a failure to understand the very nature of the English language that had caused the professor to lose his words when he met the plumber from Boston. The proper role of the English language is to connect people. People are by definition not the same as each other, and so the proper role of the English language is to connect people who are not the same as each other. These differences between people may take many forms. They may be differences of class, political party, national background, faith, or any of many other sources of non-sameness. But the core of English is always the same. It connects different people. In my opinion, the more you study the English language, the more powerful you become with the tools provided by this strange and beautiful tongue, the more skilled you become at connecting with people who are even more and more unlike yourself. Why do I mention all of this now? Because conjunctions, the topic of today's lesson, are all about just that, connection. It's all there in the name, conjunction. A conjunction is, at its most literal level, a joining together of different things. We have already learned about the two major types of conjunctions along the course of our studies together. These two types are coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. You will recall that coordinating conjunctions, also known as FANBOYS conjunctions, serve to join ideas of equal importance. Subordinating conjunctions, on the other hand, create hierarchical relationships between ideas, with one more important than the other. Since we have already looked at subordinating conjunctions at some length in our lesson on different types of clauses, we'll focus today on the FANBOYS conjunctions, the coordinating conjunctions. Why are there 7 different FANBOYS conjunctions when the job of conjunctions is simply to connect things? Why do we need 7 different connectors? Because not all connections are the same. I like to think about conjunctions as glue. Like glue, conjunctions bind grammatical terms. And glue comes in many different types. There's Elmer's glue, wood glue, super glue. Which glue you use depends on what things you are connecting to each other. Each one of the 7 coordinating conjunctions is its own kind of glue, serving to bind particular kinds of things. Broadly speaking, the FANBOYS conjunctions express 3 different kinds of relationships between connected ideas. These are complementary relationships, oppositional relationships, and logical cause and effect relationships. Let's look at the first conjunction in FANBOYS, the conjunction for. The conjunction for expresses a logical cause and effect relationship between ideas, and is, roughly speaking, a synonym of the subordinating conjunction because. In other words, if you want to show that the first idea in a series is the logical effect of a particular cause, then use for. For example, the audience asked the speaker to speak louder, for no one could hear him in the back. The next fanboys conjunction, and, needs no introduction. It expresses a complementary relationship between ideas, showing that a second idea adds on to an idea mentioned in the first clause of a sentence. For example, the man was thirsty, and moreover, he had not slept the whole night before. The third fanboys conjunction is nor, which indicates an oppositional relationship between ideas. Nor forms a natural pair with its positive version, or. Whereas or indicates a presence of choices or options to decide from, nor indicates a lack of options or choices. For example, the basketball player could not jump high enough to dunk, nor could he shoot three-pointers. But the fourth fanboys conjunction also needs no introduction. It expresses an oppositional relationship between an earlier clause and a later one. Usually this conjunction is used when a later idea would not be expected on the basis of the earlier one. The next fanboys conjunction, or, has already been mentioned. It serves to indicate a positive set of options from which one might choose, as in, you can spend the summer in France, or you can stay home to work. Next up, we have yet, which in many ways is the most puzzling of conjunctions. It is nearly a synonym for the more commonly used conjunction but. Some English speakers suggest that yet sounds more formal than but. Others say that yet should be used when expressing a sense of surprise. For all intents and purposes, though, these two conjunctions can often be used interchangeably. Consider the following sentence. The woman was athletic, yet she had never exercised a day in her life. Here the conjunctions yet and but both work well, with the conjunction yet expressing something of a sense of a surprise at the second clause. Finally, last but not least, we come to the conjunction so, which also expresses a logical cause and effect relationship. I like to think of so as the counterpart of for, except in reverse. With the conjunction so, the order of the effect and the cause is reversed. With so, the cause comes in the first clause and the effect comes in the second. Consider this sentence, for instance. My eyes were getting tired, so I decided to stop reading for the night. In this sentence, the cause, tired eyes, comes first, while the effect, stopping reading, comes second. It all makes sense. The reason that I have discussed conjunctions at some length in this lesson is that I often see even native speakers of English using conjunctions arbitrarily, without understanding the various different types of connections they indicate. It's essential always to think before you use a conjunction, in order to consider which kind of relationship between ideas you would like to create. The ideas we have covered in coordinating conjunctions today also apply to subordinating conjunctions, except that subordinating conjunctions are greater in number and express a great many more nuances of thought than fanboys conjunctions do. Conjunctions are very special, but they are not outliers in the world of words. Their job is to connect things. I would like to conclude today's lesson by suggesting that this purpose is not only the purpose of conjunctions, though. The role of words in general is to create relationships. The very nature of language is to connect, to conjoin, to unify. Conjunctions are, in this respect, the most wordly words out there in our language. They are the connectors among the connectors. If language is not good for building relationships between things and people that are not the same as each other, then I would ask, what is it good for, really? With that as a closing reflection, we'll call it a day on our conjunctions lesson. I'll see you right back here next time for another inquiry into the fascinating world of the parts of speech. Spread the word.